Say something!
Be afraid. Be very afraid. Hello everyone and welcome to day 22 of Terrorthon, body horror, a subgenre of horror which isn't talked about very often. But there are more than quite a few examples out there which we're going to explore today. So first off, what exactly does body horror mean? Well, it's a subgenre of horror that deals specifically with the human body getting brutally mutilated or altered in a very disgusting way. So it's certainly not for everyone. If you're looking for a gory movie, chances are you're going to find it in body horror. But it isn't just scary in the sense that it's disgusting and gooey, it's also quite psychologically disturbing, and these transformations are often very grotesque. The term was first used by Philip Brothy in 1983, but we can trace the origins of body horror much further back than that. All the way back, in fact, to 1818 when Mary Shelley released the novel Frankenstein. Now we could also call Frankenstein a creature feature really, but when you consider that Frankenstein's monster is made up of parts of corpses, it very much qualifies as body horror. And then in 1915, Franz Kafka released his novella The Metamorphosis, all about a man transforming into a hideous beast, also very much body horror. And then we've got the works of H.P. Lovecraft. Many of his works could be considered as body horror, and many decades later his works would inspire manga artists to make lots of body horror books. Moving into the realm of cinema, the very first officially recognised body horror movie was in 1955 with The Quatermass Experiment by Hammer Horror. And then we also had The Blob, The Fly and Rosemary's Baby. Those were all body horror, but we've already discussed them at length, so we're going to skip them for now. Then in 1956 we had Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which for body horror of its time is quite gruesome. The remake in 1978 obviously qualifies as body horror as well. And then we've got in 1977 by David Lynch, Eraserhead. Now this is a difficult one because we could call it body horror, but the truth is Eraserhead exists in a subgenre entirely of its own. It is very much a nightmare put on film, and I recommend it if you're brave enough, but you're not going to be forgetting it anytime soon. Now, a discussion on body horror would simply be incomplete if we did not mention the famous director David Cronenberg. A large portion of his filmography is very much body horror, and he's generally considered the master of the subgenre. He's done Shivers, Rabid, Scanners, that's quite a famous one, Videodrome, which is also very much like a nightmare put on film. I recommend it if you're brave enough. And then he did the remake of The Fly, which, again, we've discussed at length. And then in 1987 we got the first Hellraiser movie. This is a very famous example, but I don't think most people realise that it is body horror. But when you think about it, it makes total sense when you think about what you have to see happen to human bodies, and just look at the Cenobites, they are body horror personified. From that point on, movie makers were allowed to release virtually anything they wanted, so body horror has only gotten more and more intense over the years. But in 2006 we got a body horror comedy in Slither. Highly recommend that movie, very entertaining. To this day body horror continues to be released. The Japanese are still big fans of it with the likes of Tokyo Gore Police, which is a very good movie if you can stand the craziness. And we also got Possessor in 2020 by David Cronenberg's son Brandon, carrying on his father's legacy. So clearly body horror is not going away anytime soon. See you tomorrow.